Oh,
But we would like everybody to keep their pictures on if they possibly can. So, because it makes it much better for the speaker when your pictures are on. This evening, I would take and introduce our Club Growth Director, Von Eric Kandock.
Thank you, Margaret. Thank you very much. Welcome to our another episode of Club Growth Corner. And also, I would like to say welcome to our District Director, Dan Makosh, who's always supportive of Club Growth Corner, Turuchi, and of course, Margaret, both from Club Growth Assembly. But of course, we would like to introduce our keynote speaker for tonight. Member of Toastmasters for 33 years, with years and years of leadership experience. Number 48, accredited speaker in our history. Past district governor, past region advisor, and a traveler, and spoke to 74 countries in counting. Friends, fellow Toastmasters, do you want to receive constructive feedback for your personal growth? Or how about networking opportunities? Well, it's an honor to introduce our speaker tonight, no other than Bob Hooey, Accredited Speaker and DTM.
well, Von Eric, what I have to say about what you said in terms of networking, all that other kind of stuff is, so what? Like, so what? And if that sounds a little harsh, there's a reason behind the reason that I had this thing. Because the reality is we're all dedicated Toastmasters on this call, and we all have good reasons for being here. And I got to talk about that in a minute as to why you joined, why you stay, those kinds of things. But the reality is people out there don't know about us. They don't know about Toastmasters. They don't know the benefits. And if the benefits that we share with them don't resonate with them, they're going to say, so what? I could care less. Most people in the world care less about Toastmasters. That's the truth. That's the reality in which we find ourselves. And I think if we understand that, and part of what I'm hoping to do tonight in terms of making this a little more interactive and talking about it is play with our mindsets just a bit so that we understand some of what goes behind recruiting, re-energizing people, because we all have people in our clubs that are bored or they're tired, or the club has been struggling, so people are tired of doing all the work. You know, you've lived through some of this. I'm sure most of you have. And then to say, okay, why do they stick around? You know, so let me just share with you one quick story. I'll share with you a bunch of stories tonight, but that's one story to start. When I joined Toastmasters, I put my application in 33 years ago in March. And according to Toastmasters, it got processed April 13th, 33 years ago, because they had to mail it in and whatever. So I've been a Toastmaster now for 33 years. I found out about Toastmasters when I met a man called John Noonan. He was doing stuff with the Business Development Bank in British Columbia. And I went to a couple of his programs and I got his card. And I noticed on his card that he had the little logo for the National Speakers Association. And I had this idea that I wanted to be a professional speaker. So I talked to him at one of the breaks and said, John, I see that you have the NSA logo on your card. My dream is to become a professional speaker and travel the world. And he said to me, and I quote, Bob, have you ever heard of Toastmasters? And I never had. I never heard the term. And he said, Bob, here's a suggestion. I've told this story actually when he was in the audience, when I keynoted the International Convention in Calgary. And he said, you know, he'd heard me speak. So he said, here's an idea, Bob. Maybe it would be a good idea to join a Toastmaster club and hone your skills just a little before you hang out your shingle as a professional speaker. That was the most beneficial conversation I've had with anybody in my life, because look where it's led me. you know. And the following couple of weeks, it took me a while to find a club to go visit. A couple of weeks later, I went to visit a club in Vancouver called Toastmasters of Today. And if you've ever read Cheryl Rauch's book, Heart of a Toastmaster, the story, the 13 steps is my story of entering Toastmasters is in that book. I came that evening. It was a Tuesday night. It was dark and dreary, and it was raining, and so I walked across the parking lot, and literally it was in the bottom of a church, and you entered from the outside, and I went down to this thing, got my hand on the door, and turned around and walked back up to the parking lot. And then I had a conversation with myself. Look, you drove 45 minutes from New Westminster to Vancouver. At least go in the door and see what this Toastmaster thing is all about. So that's how I know it was 13 steps, because I went up and down twice and walked into the store, into the thing, and met the people with Toastmasters today. I met Lorna Cook, was the president of that club. She got talking to me at the break and said, Bob, why are you here? And I told her about John and whatever. And I said, I want to become a professional speaker and travel the world and encourage people. And she looked at me, and she hadn't heard me speak yet. And she said, Bob, we can help you with that. We became friends. We went through leadership together. We were area governors the same year, division. I got appointed public relations. She was lieutenant governor of marketing. I got a lieutenant governor of marketing. She was education. She was district governor. I was, et cetera. So, we went, that relationship started there, but it all went back to John Noonan, who was at that time the immediate past international president of Toastmasters, telling me I should join Toastmasters. Now, I tell you that story because he talked to me about what I wanted. If he had said to me, hey, Bob, Toastmasters would be a great place to work on your leadership, I never would have gone and checked it out, because I wasn't interested in being a leader. In fact, I wasn't ever interested in being a leader. I just sort of got nudged into it, and things happened along the way. So that's part of what I'm trying to say to you in terms of, so what? If we don't take the time to see Toastmasters through their eyes and see what they need, what they want, they're not going to join. Just because we think something is amazing, that's great, it may not be to the people you're talking to. So my suggestion is, be vocal about being a member of Toastmaster. Be vocal about the benefits and stuff. Just don't stop doing what you're doing. But when you're talking to people individually, ask them questions that draw them out to find out why they might find some value in joining Toastmasters, and then give them some evidence as to why joining Toastmasters will help them get what they want. Like one of the questions I'm going to ask, and I know there's only a few of us on here, is like, why do we as clubs, why do we care about getting new members? You can unmute and everybody, since it's a small group, and just tell me just quickly, why do we as a club, why do we want new members?
New energy, new ideas, money.
Okay, money, that's honest. New ideas, what else?
Need our club to grow, because we need it to be a good standing, and not only on good standing, but we need a good club to be. So
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So having said that, I'm going to say the same words again. So what? That's all for the benefit of the club. Did you listen to what you said? Money, new ideas, standing, that's for the benefit of the club. Switch it around and think about the people we're approaching and say, what's in it for them to come to Toastmasters and be a member of my club? That's when you have a chance to do things. I mean, one of the things that I talk about when I'm traveling the world is being effective in selling. And you sell best by looking at your product and your service through the eyes of your potential client. If you see you through their eyes, you have a better idea on what to say to them to help them decide to buy or deal with you. My wife has a retirement job now. She got recruited by Expedia Cruises in Sherwood Park. That's where we've been. We cruise a lot, and we'd be the kind of person where Irene would do all the research, and we go in and say, okay, here's what we want, boom, 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 and they just book it. And the lady said to us once, and then she came back again after the last cruise last year and said, I'm serious. You should come and work for us because you're doing all the work. You should get paid for it. So Irene went and talked to him, and then the key thing was, and they said, and by the way, once in a while you get to go on these fam trips where you get special pricing and stuff, and Bob can go too. And that motivated me to say to her, you should do this. She's been doing it now for a year, and she's having a ball because she's a research scientist, retired research scientist. She worked at the Vigorville lab, and she's got that kind of mentality. So when people are asking her things, she will go and find it for them and help them get what they're looking for. And she's doing really well. And I keep saying, I'm amazed that you're such a good salesperson. I never thought I'd be. Well, it's a perfect thing. It's a servant selling. That's what we need to do in Toastmasters. We need to remember that we're not selling them on joining our club. We're saying, here's what our club can do to help you. Do you understand the difference? I think too often we forget that. It's just like Dan, Dan and Rebecca and Von Erich. I'm sure you get some of this from Toastmasters. We used to, when I was in the district, we get all this stuff about points, and you got to do this, and you got blah 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 blah, all this stuff. And after 3 or 4 years of it, I just finally said, tell you what, we're going to take care of the people. The points will take care of themselves. The focus isn't on the points or the per caps or the money or all that stuff. The points are people coming and having fun? Are they getting educated? Are they staying? Those kinds of things. That's what excited me. I'll tell you another story. When I was running for international director, somebody contacted me from Toastmasters, Telecom Toastmasters, which was my second club. It was the club that I joined, and I'm not going to say single-handedly, but primarily it was me taking it from 8 to 15 to 23 members in a year. And we became, number 13 in the world for clubs under 20. And every year since, they've been distinguished or better since then. That's a lot of years ago. They've produced a couple of district governors and a whole bunch of other things, all from that little club that was 8 members and got rebuilt. But the interesting thing is, I was talking to this lady because she phoned and said, yeah, somebody told me you were involved in this club. And I said, yeah, I actually rebuilt it 33 years ago or 32 years ago or whatever it was. And she said, oh yeah, so-and-so and so-and-so remember you. There was 2 people that I personally sponsored that are still they were still members of that club 2 years ago. That was the biggest win for me ever. 2 people, I remember Margot from the one Speechcraft that I did. Very quiet, and she's still there. She's now a senior Toastmaster. And Luke came in, so this is the fun part, is understanding that you can make those kind of impacts with people. So I'll ask you guys, because I know, Don, I know you've been around for a long time. How long have each of you been in Toastmasters?
30.
30 years? Okay.
I saw you, Bob, and 3 or 4 years. I said, I want to be like Bob. So good story though.
Yeah, for 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
3
10
years.
months.
10 months.
Yeah.
Okay, good. And Rebecca,
Going up tonight.
10 years?
10 years.
And Von Erich?
9 years and 4 days.
Okay. Yeah, because I've known both of you for a long time. And Margaret?
3 years,
Okay.
approximately.
So there's a variety, one brand new person and a couple of us old guys and some in between. But and I'm sure we all came for different reasons. I'm sure we all came for a reason. It was a reason that was applicable to us. And we found something in Toastmasters that made sense to us, which is why we joined. And some of us have stuck around because, like I tell people, I joined Toastmasters because I needed to become a better speaker so I could market myself and travel the world. I accomplished that in the first 3 or 4 years. I'm still here because I got nudged into leadership and I found out I liked it. And I found out I was good at it. And I found out I enjoyed challenging people to grow and helping them get better at what they're doing. And I've taken that around the world in terms of when I was a region advisor, or even when I'm just traveling and doing programs for districts around the world. You know, that to me is fun. My wife puts up with it when we travel, but you know, for me, it's fun. And but different people take different things. So, and the other thing is asking is that same thing is, Rohan, I can't ask you this question because it's too new maybe, but why are you still here?
Of course, I can go on it forever, but I won't. I'll tell you my theory, and that's the reason I'm here. My theory is that our generation is in a friendship recession, especially after pandemic. And I believe the fastest way to grow your network in a new city is join Toastmasters. I did that. I am in Vancouver, BC, by the way.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, yeah, that's true. I believe that. I live that. You know, back in the old days, we didn't have the internet. I remember I joined Toastmasters, and I can't remember if it was that summer. I was a member, like I joined in April, I think in June or July or something. I went to Australia, and I talked to the guy who happened to be the district governor, and they had a manual that they had printed with some of the contacts around the world. It was a lot smaller then, so they could do it in a small manual. And so I got a couple of phone numbers and stuff in a couple of places in Australia. And so when I was there, I phoned them and said, "Hi, I'm a Toastmaster from Canada. I understand you have a club. Could I come visit?" And I actually did my number 5 and my number 6 speech in Australia. So I got to be an international speaker within months of becoming Toastmaster. Who knew? And not only that, the first one I went to, the guy that I called was the district governor. I didn't know a governor from a hole in the ground. And he said, "Yeah, come along to my club." And he came up to me and he said, "Bob, they're having a contest tonight, so there's really no room, but I was supposed to speak. So I told him I'm going to give you my spot and I'll evaluate you." That's Toastmasters. You know, that's the kind of stuff that builds the relationships that keep you involved, you know? And I think too often we tend to think that it's just a program. You know, I tell people the program is good. We've gone through so many changes. Even Dan, I'm sure you've seen some. I saw some even before I started. Back in the old days when they had the CTM program, at one time you had to have 15 speeches to get your CTM. And then when I joined, they had just changed it to 10. And that time, in order to get your able Toastmaster, you had to actually physically be a member 4 years before you could get your advanced Toastmasters. Physically, you had to be a member. You could have everything done, but you had to be a member 4 years before you could get that. You know, so along the way, Toastmasters has changed things. And a lot of times they've been changing it because they want to keep people involved. Some of the changes have been good. Some of them maybe haven't been so good, and some of them they're now cleaning up. I just saw something on Facebook yesterday where people were talking about, when did they change the tagline from, you know, where leaders are made, to public speaking and communication? And I hadn't heard that. So I'm reading all these things and I'm thinking, okay, I know they talked about it because I talked to some of the international directors and stuff way back when that said, yeah, they're discussing it. Because they basically got sold a bill of goods when they did that, because they were trying to come up with something that differentiated Toastmasters from everybody else. So instead of going with the power that we have, which is primarily communication and presentation skill, they decided, let's make it leadership. You know, 13, I think it was 2019, 18 or 19, Toastmasters did some research and surveys as to why people join Toastmasters. Do you know how many people joined for leadership?
None.
13%.
Well, the problem
Everything else is communication based.
Bob, the problem was they didn't follow up with anything. They just put that hung shingle outside and expected it was going to do something. Well, it didn't.
No.
I was talking to an past international president, and I said, well, What about leadership? We should they had been talking quite a bit about communication that, and she said, I would just forget it. So there you are. That's where we're at.
Yep.
So
Well,
I haven't seen it, but
Yeah. Well, I think part of it though is they came up with this as thing saying, hey, we need to own something, and that's what they decided that they would own. And I'm not saying that Toastmasters doesn't help you with your leadership. I mean, I'm living proof of that. I've made a good living working with leaders of national, international organizations because I've got some background in leadership, and they pay me good money to give them advice. But that's not why I came to Toastmasters. It's a byproduct of why I came and got involved in the club in the area and so forth. And I learned a few things that I was able to take into the real world and learn some more in leadership things outside of Toastmasters that gave me some experience that made me of value where these guys could pay me really good money. So what I'm saying is that I think when we're talking to people, we need to understand what they're interested in. You know, like I printed this off. You can't see it because, you know, this is separate than the one that Von Erich and I were working from. But this is the official benefits of Toastmasters, build a better you. And I find it interesting that they're calling it benefits. And yet when I teach sales, there's a difference between benefits and features. You know, a feature is something and the benefit is what you get out of the feature. I'd say most of these are more features than benefits. Like it says, improve your public speaking skills. So what? So you get to be a better speaker. So what? What does that do for you? So the connection there is to turn that so what into a so that. Improve your public speaking skills so that you're more confident in presenting your ideas at work, so that you're more confident in presenting your program or your selling, or you're not afraid to ask that pretty girl to dance. You know, something that there's a benefit, there's an actual benefit to it. And you know, gain self-confidence and self-awareness. Again, why? What does that do for you? What's the so that for that? You know, when you're more confident, when you become more back in the old days, we used to call it competent Toastmaster. I got 7 of them, so I figure if I lose one, I'm still competent, you know. But the thing is, when you become competent, sometimes you become confident at the same time. And your confidence is based on the fact that you've built some skills, and that's transferable. I mean, there have been so many times in my life where I've been in the midst of something weird and wonderful or horribly scary, and I went, you know, okay, I'm a Toastmaster, I can handle this. I've actually said that to myself. I'm a Toastmaster, I can handle this. Because if I can handle that, I can handle this, and somehow I've gotten through it. So I think that's part of the thing, you know, practice writing speeches and presenting to group settings. Okay, that's nice. But what does that do for you as an individual? You know, it enhances your skills. You become a better communicator, which means you can build better relationships. You know, do you understand where I'm going with this? In terms of taking these things that we call benefits and personalizing them so that we can say to people, here's what you can actually get from Toastmasters. Because I personally believe you can get out of Toastmasters what you put into Toastmasters.
Here's a good
You know?
statement.
Yeah. You know, if you show up just expecting Toastmasters is going to make you wonderful, it's not going to happen. It's like I remember my first year, there was a guy who joined and he got his CTM, which was 10 speeches in a year. And I said to my mentor, Jan Miko, and I said, Jan, it's amazing. He just blitzed through it like almost every, and she said, Bob, here's the deal. You can rush through it and become a CTM, or you can take your time and become a competent Toastmaster. I've never forgotten that. You know, what is it you want to get out of it? And I think that's part of it. Like when Lorna said to me, what do you want to get out of your experience here at Toastmasters? And I told her, she said, we can help you with that. And I think too often we rush to get people in. We try and sell them on something instead of making sure we understand what they want. Because if we help them get what they want, they don't get bored. They don't need to get re-energized because they're getting what they want. That, you know, if you're doing something and you're getting something out of it, you're going to keep going. And if you keep going, you're going to retain them. They're going to stick around. That's the key. You know, here's another one. Unlimited personal growth. Yeah, that's good, but why? Maximize your potential. These are interesting little buzzy things, but how do you make them personal to the person you want to recruit? Because if it doesn't resonate,
Well,
if it
first you
doesn't,
have to understand the person. The guy can't, is it one pitch that's going to work on everybody?
no,
Okay,
that's the whole point.
You need to have, you said understand your product. You know, I say selling is finding out what people want and giving it to them.
That's exactly it.
That's just an easy thing to remember. So
That-
I always ask somebody to come to Toastmasters, or certainly after they've joined. So what are you trying to get out of this? What do you want? Where do you think you're going to be in 5 years? Because then
Exactly.
the things you're talking about, making sure you're building a program and that helps them get to where they want to be.
Yep. And that's exactly it. That was the part that I was initially excited about Pathways until we found out that it really wasn't working, and had to be revamped. Because I was saying to people in corporate, when I was doing my corporate visits, when I was traveling around doing my district visits as a regional advisor, and we have these amazing programs. You got 13 modules. You can sit down with your reports and help them choose which one's going to help them become better at work, and you know, which sounded good on paper.
They were
It
falling.
didn't work so well in real life. But you know, and it's getting better. Don't get me wrong. I mean, again, the problem we had with Toastmasters, and this is the second time we did this, we bought something that was somebody else's program and tried to adapt it. You know, it wasn't something we created for us. It was something that was there, and we thought, okay, we'll buy it, we can fix it. And you know, they're still fixing it. It's getting better. You know, I've done 2 paths, and I found some parts of it to be enjoyable. Some parts of it I found repetitive. But again, that's the part. You help people find what works for them. And you find what helps them. If you do that, you can help them in the club. Having a mentor, for example, somebody who actually works with them to help them figure out how to do their first pathway and their first speech and some of this kind of stuff, and how the logistics work in the club, so that because a lot of people, you realize, they've never been to Toastmasters. They have no idea. They have no idea how it works. So it's nice to have somebody who's a more senior member of the club to say, here's how it works. And we'll get you going, and we'll do this, and we'll do this, and ease them into it. But don't let them. One thing I've told people, I said, don't let them wait forever to get up and give their first speech. Because that's where you grow. You know, have them confront the fear, get up there, even if it's a challenge for them. If they get through it, then they move forward, and you know, that kind of stuff. That's I've seen too many times where it's, oh, we're busy, we'll fit you in. You know,
Every week,
I-
the wall gets higher and higher that you have to get over.
well, yeah, the longer you watch, the more scary it gets, because you see some really good speakers. Maybe, you know, it's like people come to Wild Rose, and they go, oh man, you got some really good speakers. And I keep reminding, yeah, but we weren't when we started. We really weren't when we started. And some of us remember what we were like when we started. You know, right, Rebecca? You know, we know what it was like back at the beginning, or Von Erich, when you started when you first joined Toastmasters, and you were just, you know, I mean, even Dan, I'm sure you can think back 30 years to what it was like when you came.
I can remember back.
I think back 33 years. I remember it vividly, scared to death doing my first presentation. Holy mackerel. And then having to learn how to make them work in terms of, when I first started, I would write them. You know, as some of you know, I've written a number of books. I tell people some of my earlier speeches are great chapters in my books because I wrote them, but I don't speak that way. So I had to learn to say, okay, I'll write it to capture the thought, but extrapolate it out. So I do a mind map based on the thing. And then eventually I just got to the point where, hey, I can do the mind map. I don't have to write it out. And I would literally write my speech on the back of a business card, and driving from New Westminster to Vancouver, I practice my speech as I'm driving. And I'm sure people in the cars next to me thought I was crazy because I'm talking and articulating, and the window's not down, so they don't know what I'm doing. They just think there's a crazy man driving down the street, But it gave me a chance to practice doing it in terms of the little business card. I have a quick phrase or a word or whatever that helped me work through what I was doing. In fact, when I did my first shot at the accredited speaker, I was scared to death. So I did the same thing. I had all these little notes, and I taped. Here's a secret. If you're doing stuff, you're using notes, don't leave them on the lectern. Don't put them on a lectern in advance unless you tape them down. I've seen several times over the years, I've seen the introducer pick it up and walk away with your speech. Then what do you do? Oh my God. So what I did is I actually got on there and I taped these little things on the thing. And there were two big plants on the front of the stage, and I taped one on each plant on the side of the thing. My thought process was, if I get stuck, I'll wander over and look like I'm just thinking. And what I'm doing is I'm reading my notes in the plant. And then I can continue. Well, it was a good idea at the time. I'm sure the janitor that cleaned the room afterwards going, "What's all this stuff on the plants?" Because I didn't take them off. But I think the key thing there is we need to be looking, and this sounds repetitive, but we need to look at Toastmasters through the potential eyes of our member. And then we also need to be willing to ask people to join. I have been to more clubs over the years where somebody stands up at the end of the meeting and says, "Oh, you guys are great. I'd love to do what you do." And nobody asks them to join. It's a missed opportunity. You think about it. If people have taken the courage to get in their vehicle or whatever it is, to drive down or to walk across the street if it's a corporate club, and walk into a room of people they don't know, maybe they know one or two people and they've included them, at least honor their courage by saying, "We'd like you to consider joining us. We'd love to have you as a member." And George can tell you how to do that.
A lot of clubs will say, "Well, come back and visit us again."
No,
What the hell is that telling the guy?
come back with a check.
And we don't pressure anybody. We don't even offer to have them join us till they quit coming.
I know it's sad. We miss the opportunity. And I think it's sad because people don't understand how it works. They don't know if we're a cult or we do have to be voted in, but we don't know all this kind of stuff because there's other fraternal organizations that you've got all these things and, you got to jump through hoops to be a member. And they don't know. They honestly don't know. Make it easy for them and say, we'd love to have you as a member of our club. Talk to so-and-so. He can sign you up. I used to do that all the time. I mean, here's an idea, maybe too late for this year, but I'm digging through stuff just to find stuff for tonight. And I found a couple of old medallions. I actually have a bunch of those, but I found two of them. And for some reason you can't see them. But in District 21, they used to have a marketing contest every year where you got awards for recruiting members. And I was in the top 5 a number of years. In 2 years, I was actually the champion. Let me take a look here. This one's in black so I can read it. 1995, 1996, 25 people I recruited. 1996, 1997, 30 people. Just because I asked. I mean, that's the thing. The worst they can do is say no. The worst they can do is say no. I think too often we're afraid to ask. And I think we miss that. Like I say, I think we need to honor their courage if they've come to the club to say, thank you for coming to visit, and we'd love to have you as a member. Just as simple as that. Sometimes they'll say, yeah, I'll be back next week with a check. Or can you take e-transfer or whatever nowadays? Because that wasn't invented when I was first doing this. So there's all sorts of new stuff now that you can do to make it even easier. But again, I've got some notes here. So here's a little thing in terms of both regenerating and retaining. Have you ever been to a meeting where somebody stands up at the beginning of the meeting and says, yeah, George, can you do this? Yeah. Susie, can you do this? George, can you do this too? And by the time they're getting the meeting going, people are going, man, this is a lot of work. Because you're seeing some people doing 2 or 3 jobs. You know, I honestly think every meeting should be considered a demo meeting. If you get that across to people that, you know, if people are coming, show them what Toastmasters is all about. You can have a really good meeting with 5 or 6 people. You can have speeches, you can have evaluations, you can have table topics. That's the 3 aspects of Toastmasters. And you can do that with a small group. And we have so many clubs that are, you know, below 12 and some of them an 8. Dan and Von Erich and Rebecca would know the stats for the district. There's a lot of clubs that are in a smaller level. One of the other things that just never made sense to me was you've got a small club, you've got 8 or 10 people there, and you're trying to do a meeting as though you had 20 people. You're trying to make a 2-hour meeting when you don't have enough to fill it. You know, it makes no sense to me. You know, we have all those different little things theoretically with the concept. If you have 20 members, you can have everybody speak every week. That's why they invented table topics, evaluator, and toast, and, you know, all this different stuff. Word of the day, and yada, 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 all this stuff. If you don't have it, don't worry about it. Focus on what the important thing is, which is helping people grow, helping people confront their fear of speaking in front of an audience, even if it's only 5 people. One of the other things that we used to do, and I'm sure you're doing some of it, is to invite speaker evaluation teams from other clubs, so that when people walk in, they see more than just your club, and your club sees more than just your club. Now, that may not work if you're the only club in Fort McMurray and the other club, nearest club is like 50 miles away. It may not work, but the idea is to have something that shows the value of what you're doing and have fun. You know, how many of you like to join something that looks like you're having a good time? I do. You know, you walk into a funeral. Okay, that's different than walking into a party. You walk into a funeral, it's not like, hey, somebody died? What, you know? Oh, somebody died? Okay, sorry. But you walk into a party and somebody comes over and plays host and say, hi, Bob, can I introduce you to some people? Bum, 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 bum. You know, everybody gets to be the host in a club that wants to grow, which means somebody walks in the door, don't let them stand there. Walk over and introduce yourself and say, hi, I'm Rebecca. You know, I've been a member here now for 10 years. I remember what it was like my first time. What brought you to Toastmasters? Hey, that's a great idea. We can help you with that. Right, Von Erich? I mean, we did that with GoPro. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, I was looking at stuff and again, looking for things to do. And I've got this one little plaque that's from May of 1997, where I got acknowledged for starting 5 clubs that year. I've actually officially started more. I think it's 8 officially and about 15 unofficially. You know, like GoPro was one of the ones I helped start, but I didn't take any credit for it because what do I need an extra mentorship or sponsor for? So you gave it to 4 other people. But you were one of them, weren't you?
Yes, I'm the co-sponsor.
Oh, there you go. See, but that was the idea. You know, after I did 8 of them, I thought, wait a minute, why am I taking them for me when I don't need them? I got 2 DTMs already, you know? So I would help start the club and say, who needs to become a DTM? Okay, you need this. You become the sponsor, you become the mentor, which means you got to stick around for 6 months and help this club get better. And, you know, and you do that. So that's how you would strengthen the clubs. I used to do the same thing when I was traveling for you know, region advisor. I'd say to the people when I'm coming in, you know, it was funny. Lark Doley was on a call with everybody in the one region and said, when Bob comes, put him to work. She actually said that. So I said to her after the one trip where I spoke 37 times in about 5 days, I said, yeah, they worked me. But that's okay. I liked it because I reacted to that. And one of the things I said to them, I said, put me in front of a struggling club or bring a couple of struggling clubs together because I'm really good at helping them get some energy. And I'm pleased to say that every single one of those visits, at least one club didn't die. And in some places, we did some demo meetings and some new clubs got started. That to me is what feeds me as a Toastmaster, to see people grow and see this go. You think about it, you know, you think of Peter Kosselin, 172 clubs. He's 93 years old. He's still an active member in 3 of them. 172 clubs, just times 20. That's a lot of people. And then all the people that they connected with and all the people they connected with. That's a lot of people that got influenced by one guy. That's exciting. That's part of what we can do. Or the other thing that we can do is do something where we bring in somebody that's encouraging. One of the things I did when I was rebuilding Tillicum is I was also, this is, I don't know if you've heard the story or not, but I made the mistake of saying, yes, I'll be an area governor at the beginning of my 2nd year. I didn't know what the heck an area governor was. And we had to be elected in District 21. So I had to actually run for the job. It's not like people were begging me to become an area governor. There was 2 of us running, and I had to beat the other person to become area governor, and then I didn't know what I was doing. And I had Area 52. And then that particular year, our district governor was Dr. Irene Evans, and she said, we're going to District 21, we're going to be #1 in the world this year. And I thought, fat chance, lady. In fact, when I keynoted the conference in Calgary in 2008, she was in the audience. And I said, Irene, when you said that, in my brain, in my heart, I said, lady, not a chance in hell that's going to happen. You don't know my area. I got one club that's nearly dead, which was mine. I got one club that's a corporate club that's in really great shape. The other 3, we're not sure yet. I had this brilliant idea. I thought, if I can expose them to some really good speakers, maybe they'd get excited about what they could do with Toastmasters. So a friend of mine, his son was Peter Legge. You guys don't know who Peter Legge is, but within the speaking industry, he's one of those icons. He's a Hall of Famer, CSP, blah, blah, blah. You know, he's a speaker. He also did the foreword for my Speaking for Success book. And so I got in touch with him through his son. And I said, Peter, I know you're a good speaker because I'd seen him speak. And I'm an area governor, and I've got 5 clubs, and they're struggling. And, you know, I'm thinking if I could get them to hear you speak and get excited, maybe they'd get excited about Toastmasters. And he said, I'll come. So I went out and out of my own pocket, rented a hotel room, and we invited a whole bunch of people and all the 5 clubs. And he came, and Peter was Peter. And he had him bouncing off the walls. He's Mr. Motivation. Long story short, every single one of those clubs at the end of that year was distinguished or better. All of them are still in existence today because people see the potential. And I think we need to do that. I get asked to come in. I don't know. I don't consider myself on the same level as my friend Peter, but I'm happy to do it because give people an idea of what they can do with what the program is. If they see it, they can say, I could do that. And if it's somebody like me, I can say to them, anything you see me do, you could be doing, because I started from nothing. I literally started from nothing. And I worked at it. I worked the program. I worked my ass off, and I kept getting better. And eventually it got to the point where people would pay me money to speak, not pay me money to shut up. And now I travel the world and people pay me, you know, and in some cases they pay me unreasonable amounts of money. Well, not unreasonable. I think it's greatly reasonable, but I think it's a lot of money they pay me. I've gotten as much as $10,000 for one little, 45-minute talk. That's pretty good money. And I got it because the guy that hired me used to be with the brick here in Edmonton, and he'd used me to rebuild what they do and help them go over the $1 billion sales mark. And he credits me with being one of the ones that helped their organization break the $1 billion retail sales market, because they brought me in and helped me do something with their team. So he knew what I could do, and he said, "Hey, you got to come to visit with us and help me with this group down here." I said, "Well, I'm in Europe, but I can arrange to come see you and thing, and it's going to be this amount of money." "Yeah, no problem. Send me a bill." And that's the point. When people see the value, they stay involved. When people are getting value, they don't have to be re-energized. Although I think sometimes that's what we need to do. If you've got a club that's struggling, a lot of times what I've seen is people are getting tired. They're getting tired of coming and doing 3 and 4, roles, and having to constantly be scrambling to cover. I've been there. We went through some of that in Wild Rose for a while. Where, I'd come home and Irene would say, "How was the meeting?" And I go, "Well, it's okay." It's not like that now, but there was a time when I'd come home and I'd go, "Why did I just waste 4 hours to drive into Edmonton and spend the 2 hours at Wild Rose and an hour each way driving when I got nothing out of it?" And that's what happens. And that's one of the things I think we need to do is continue to help people get something out of it. If we do that, if that's our focus, and that's why I go back to that original question: why do we want members as a Toastmaster club? Turn it around. Not what's in it for the club, but what's in it for the person who might join the club, who then gets those benefits. It puts a different spin on our motivation for reaching out to people. For me, when I was doing so much where we were personally recruiting people, part of that just happened because I was excited about Toastmasters. It wasn't like I was, it's like I'd found a new religion. It was called Toastmasters. And it was changing my life. Literally, it was changing my life. And I wanted everybody to know about it. So it was easy to talk about it. It was easy to say, "Hey, I see you might enjoy coming to Toastmasters. Come and check it out." And that's what would happen. They come and check it out, and they'd like it, and they'd come and join. And they say, "Bob recruited me." See, I think too often we forget that the biggest way we recruit people is word of mouth. Is when you come alongside somebody and you invite them. If John Noonan had not said to me, "Bob, have you ever heard of Toastmasters?" I wouldn't have gone looking. He didn't say, "Go to this club or this club or this club," but he said, "Have you ever heard of Toastmasters?" And I hadn't. So I went looking. And when I walked into that room down below the church and met the people in Toastmasters of today, they were my family for 5 years, as I moved and doing stuff to the point where I just couldn't get there every week, and I got so much out of it, and I kept growing because of it. In fact, one of the ladies that used to come, and this is why I got to be an area governor, was Dorothea Hendricks. And she was our area governor. She would show up more often than twice a year. She would just drop in. There was 2 clubs that met on Tuesday. So sometimes she'd come to one club in the first part of the meeting, the other club in the second. And I just got to know her. And she said to me, "Bob, you'd make a good area governor. You should think about this." And I listened to her, which was scary. So she nudged me into it. She said, I've told this story a couple of times. She said, "Yeah, it's lots of fun. It doesn't take any work at all." And when I tell that in a larger group, the people who laugh are the people who've done the job, know that it's a lot of work. Being an area governor is a lot of work, but it's also a lot of fun. And Dan, you've gone through that. You know, Rebecca, I know you have, so is Von Erich, you know, Margaret, I don't know if you have or not, but you know, it can be a lot of work, but it can be very satisfying. When you see people grow and you see people getting something out of the program, it does something for you. I've watched, like, for example, I've watched Von Erich and Rebecca over the last 10 years because I've seen them both in clubs and area and division and now the district. And I've seen them working and creating teams. You know, I've seen them putting their heart into Toastmasters, and it's encouraging because that's what we need. You know, the other thing that I'm going to mention that I think I like, I love Facebook for Toastmasters, and I love what I'm seeing. Like, we see, you know, the little logo thing you did for tonight. That was amazing. You know, in the old days, you didn't have anybody could do that, and we didn't have Facebook in those days, so it didn't matter. But if we had, we wouldn't have known how to do it. But you know, I see so many clubs that are honoring their speakers. So and so got best speaker tonight. So and so did this, or they finished 2 levels in a path, or so and so was the best table topics manner. Not everybody gets excited about being mentioned on Facebook, but most of them think, hey, this is pretty cool. Somebody recognized I did something. And it's important to catch people doing something right. You know, it doesn't hurt to do that. And it might be something that keeps them energized, and it might be something that keeps them there because they're getting something out of being in the program. Does that make sense? I'm seeing nodding heads. I'm preaching to the choir. Ron, you're the only one that hasn't been around forever. So, you know, is that making sense to you?
It is. You know, I'm in that phase where I have discovered a new religion. Every person in my network, I'm saying, have you heard of Toastmasters? All that sort of thing. You know, you've gone through it. Yet, I feel our club is not growing. And there's, I'm not a member of one club. There's like 6, I believe now. So I see some challenges, and people bail out. They get the Toastmaster flu, last moment changes.
Yeah.
And the question I'm asking is, they're not inspired, or they are not clear what they're here for. And that's why I came up with this theory. Most people I see are here for a connection. They're alone.
Yeah.
Public speaking and becoming a leader becomes secondary and tertiary. That's what I feel. So when you ask the question, hey, what brings you here? They will talk about, hey, at work, so I can get a promotion, I can communicate better. Or maybe I have a wedding coming soon. I'm the best man. I feel the first reason is something else. It is connection or something relevant to that. That's what brings everyone together. Any thoughts on that?
No, I think you're hitting it right on the head. It's you know, it's the people, not the program. The program has value. And if you work the program, you'll get better at what you're doing. But for me and for Dan and some of the other ones, I've been here for 33 years. I'll probably be here until I die because of the people. You know, it's the people that keep me connected. It's the people that get me reaching out when I'm traveling the world. Even when I'm just going on a holiday, I'll reach out to go visit a Toastmaster club just because I can. Rebecca and then Von Erich.
Well, I was going to say, I really love what Rowan said about the friendship recession and how Toastmasters is people. I thought that's one of the reasons why I joined and why I stay in Toastmasters, for the people. But when you said that Toastmasters flew and then people don't come in the last minute changes, I'd want you to consider looking at that from the silver lining, because if you know at least enough in advance, throw it on Facebook, and that's when your friends come out of the woodwork. Your friends all over the world, they can pop in, and then you've got another new friend to introduce to people, and that brings in that excitement that it might have been an unexpected guest speaker, an unexpected guest evaluator, but it can be a positive thing. So just something to consider, because it's just, again, another new friend.
Yeah. Well, Von Erich, I'll let you speak, and then I'll go back to something too.
Well, actually, Bob, thank you. Rebecca already said it. So, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Here's something else to consider. You know, what happens if you have a short meeting and you have no speakers? I'll let Rebecca answer it. I've got an answer to that, but from personal experience. But
we try to always be sunshine clubs with Brownlee's Best, for example. And sometimes people are away over the summer. So if we don't have the longest agenda, or if we don't have any prepared speakers, and we'd like to have a prepared speaker, perhaps one of the best in the world, I would do a Rebecca surprise. So I would line up a plan for which international world championship speech I want to show, and we play it. If
Okay.
we have a little bit of tech difficulties, we put the link in the chat. We say, okay, go, everyone watch it and come back. And then we can discuss that world championship speech. So every meeting has one of the best in the world, something to look at as a role model. And you can do that at any time, at any club, whether you're meeting virtually or in person. You don't have to worry about having an in-person speaker. You can just reach out and play an amazing speech.
Yeah. Well, and that's exactly the point. Just we have a traditional Toastmaster agenda, theoretically, speeches, evaluations, impromptu. If you don't have speeches, okay, then one club I went to visit years ago, they said, okay, we're having 5-minute table topics. And it was an amazing evening. It really was. Same thing. Like I remember when I used to get in, because I still get invited to come, they fly me into some of the districts to keynote and whatever. And I did one, I think it was District 60 in Ontario. And they had their table topic contest. They had a single word. It was the most unique table topic contest I'd ever seen. Their word was flamingo, or no, flamingo? Something like that. It was, that was it. Here's the word. Boom, one word. Fandango was the word. Fandango was the word. And I heard some freaking amazing speeches based on one word. I mean, I think too often we've been doing it for a certain way. And I think some of the challenge for some of us that have been around for a while, Dan and I would probably fit in that category because we've been around for 30 some years, is there's not always this thing, well, we've always done it this way, but we've done it this way a lot of times. So there's a default instead of saying, okay, well, yeah, we've done it this way, but let's try something new. Because sometimes something new, it makes it better. And that's the advantage we have of new people coming to the club, because they're bringing, as Von Erich said, new ideas. See, I heard you when you said that. You didn't think so, but I heard you, And we need that. Just like when people come from other clubs. I always tell people, go visit other clubs, because you'll see they do things differently than you do. And you bring some of that energy and ideas back to your club. And it makes it interesting. You can make Toastmasters tedious or tremendous. I just invented that, so you can write that down. Tedious or tremendous, depends on what you put into it. And a lot of that has to do with your creativity. If you're there, you understand the reason why you're there is to give people an opportunity to gather, to connect, to have some fun together, to learn together, to stretch themselves, to become better at what they want to become better at. Then how does that look? How does that change? It doesn't have to be the same as you did last week or last month. If you can still accomplish that by doing something else, then you've still accomplished what you need to do. And you've still given the members what they need, which is something to help them grow as individuals. And when you do that, you keep them energized and you keep them as a member of your club. It becomes a positive habit, which is one of the reasons why I love the fact that we have sunshine clubs. One of the things that we did with Telecom Toastmasters is I'd heard from people that the clubs that were the best in the world met all year long. So we made a commitment with 8 members that we would meet that summer and every summer since, so that people get the repetition of coming. And we had smaller meetings, we had shorter meetings to facilitate that. And then as we grew, we added more of the things to the meetings. And we'd have 2 speakers and sometimes 3 speakers as we grew. And that's why we did what we did. Like I say, we ended up, number 13 in the world for under 20 and distinguished in every year since, distinguished or better. 1 year president's distinguished from what I understand. Yeah, because people got it. And when they get it, they stay. Our job is to challenge them, to help them. And again, if we know that, we can challenge them to say, hey, this is what you said you wanted. I'll give you one quick story in closing. When I used to live on the coast, I used to teach at some of the colleges, like from Douglas College and Capilano College and a few of the other ones. And I had some people that were in my classes, and the one guy, we had talked about it, and he wanted to do a certain thing, and he wanted to quit. It was a lady that got up, and she was stuttering and shoving, and she wanted to sit down. And the rest of the class said, okay, let her sit down. She'd go later. I said, no. They thought I was a really mean guy. I said, no, just stop. You know why you're here. You know what you said you wanted to get out of this class. Take a chance and breathe and try again. And she did, and she was amazing. And then I told the class afterwards, if I had let her quit, knowing what she had told me her commitment and her growth was, she might not have ever come back. But I had to honor what she wanted by not letting her quit. Even though it was scary to me, I thought, I'm going to get fired from this college because I'm beating up on this student. But I honored what she said to me, and she loved me for it. It might have gone the other way, but sometimes you take the risk. So, Von Eric, I think we've done lots and lots. I don't know if we've given you enough value for the hour together. I thank you for the opportunity to share some ideas, and hopefully the people who are watching this later will get something out of it as well.
Thank you very much, Bob. Thank you. Yes, we will upload this recording to D99 website. And Rohan, please send your email address to Margaret. And Rebecca has a question or something
Well, I
to
was
say.
going to say, I'm so inspired by you, Bob, when you're talking about being a single person to sponsor some, like those numbers, 25, 30 people. We've got that, the Beat the Clock coming up with the Toastmasters International Membership Challenge for May and June. If our district could convince people to take a run at those kind of numbers, I'd like to see someone try to best you in that. Maybe we'll get you back into this game and we can all compete against you, Bob. If we do that, I know our district will be distinguished.
That would be marvelous. I would love to see that. I went through that when I first came to District 42. We weren't distinguished, and I started working. They had made me their executive leadership coach for 5 years, and we looked at it as being. I think, Dan, you might have been one of the division governors back in those days, where we met in Red Deer. Were you around then?
Who's
No?
that?
In Red Deer, when we did the training in Red Deer? Maybe not, but anyway.
Here, and we did it at Sylvan Lake, and we did it at another
Yeah,
place.
for a number of years
Oh,
we met
I'm
at
going to training now. They don't want training.
Yeah, well, I don't know. That's stupid.
The most valuable times was going to those sessions.
Yeah. But that was part of my thing, is we would get to the Friday night, do training, Saturday, and then Saturday afternoon we would do a ropes course.
Right?
And
Yeah, I
we
remember.
bonded as a group and we did stuff. But
No time. People don't have time for that, Bob. We only said 1 hour,
I-
2 hours max for training for a whole year.
I
So-
know. It's sad. But the point I was making was the fact that, we decided as a group that, okay, we probably wouldn't make distinguished this year, but we could between 3 or 4 years if we keep moving forward. And we did that. Each leadership team said, okay, let's move us forward. Let's move us forward. And eventually we got to being distinguished again. And I think there's a secret in that. But in working together as a team, saying, what are we going to do this year? Okay, we may not reach this goal, but we're going to move closer to it. Each year we're going to get there. So again, I will leave you with that. And again, thank you. It was great to meet you, Rohan. Which club are you in, Rohan?
Vancouver Entrepreneurs Toastmasters Club, VETC.
Okay. Good.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah, it's a fun club. We are 70 paid members, and one
Okay.
third of them really show up in person. I like
that's good.
in-person clubs, so we can
Yeah.
build connection, discuss ideas. Hey,
Yeah.
Bob, what do you do when VPs or execs are not showing up or are not as active as you would like them to be?
Well, you talk to them first, and then sometimes you retire them. We did that with the division governor one of my years. I think I was lieutenant governor of education that year, and there was
Uh-huh.
a division governor up in the northern part of BC that yeah, done, and nothing, and we talked to him, and we talked to him, and we talked to him. And we finally said, it's obvious that you don't have the time or not willing to commit the time, so we're going to relieve you of that role. And we found somebody to step in and finish for the year. Because you need to do that. You need to challenge people to say, here's the rule, here's the requirements, and we need to expect that you're going to show up and do what you need to do. We don't do them a favor by letting them slide. I just honestly believe that. You do it nicely, but you don't let them slide. And surprisingly, a lot of times people will rise to the occasion. I've seen that happen where they needed that little kick in the butt, and all of a sudden they just we're superstars. It's just, it happens. So, you'll get there. As long as you've got at least one person like yourself in your club, that's what's going to make a difference. One person can be the spark plug to make the club really rogue. And one becomes two, then becomes three, then you start getting something.
Absolutely.
That I believe.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions, or should we just let everybody go and have the rest of your evening? I guess you could probably stop the recording so they're not listening to us just chatting. Rebecca.